People grinded here, and Faceit released this as a huge update. Hey, we're putting in a lot of money in FPL to motivate people to play, blah, 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 blah. That was August to October, you see? And a few months later, they never announced anything. They just switched to 2.5k. And every month it was lower and lower, but they never announced it anywhere. But when they increase the price pool, they announce it. But when they decrease or remove it, they don't say it anywhere. So nobody knows it. You just see it the next week. And then they did this, but they put the money in rankings. So in the rankings, the pros are getting money. So you can see Monesi is getting money, Donk, Magnorgis, Makaze, Slux, Seaman Bakin. These guys are getting the money to play stacks in normal Faceit. So when you as a solo queue, duo queue player play, you will play versus them with triple Q or 5-stack Q, and you will have no chance to win the money. So instead of putting the money in FPL and building FPL and getting people to go from here to FPL, they're putting money here. The pros are winning money. You qualify from here to FPL, and then you go into FPL, and none of the pros are playing FPL because they're playing here 5 stacks to get the free money. And it's hard to explain this to Faceit and their product manager because he's pretty much brain dead. So it completely ruins any chance of you going pro. I get a lot of people asking me how, like a lot of people, like let's discuss this for example. A lot of people ask, how do you go pro now in CS2? Honestly, it's almost impossible to go pro. Because back in the day when you wanted to go pro, you had in CSGO Premier, which was solo duo triple Q. You couldn't 5-stack, you could only do those 3. And you had there a ranking through which you could get to the FPL qualifier or later on to FPLC qualifier. From there, you would get into FPLC through a qualifier of solo queue. You get into FPLC, and then in FPLC, which was like FPLC Challenger, which I made up and gave to Faceit, you could play there with other semi-pros and like lower pros, tier 2, tier 3 players to get into FPL. Guys, check out Hellcase code LOBA, 70 cents free and 15% deposit bonus. You get access to monthly giveaways, which are always the biggest on the site. You can open free daily cases, do upgrades, and unbox the biggest and best skins in CS2. Use code LOBA in the pinned comment to get the 70 cents free and 15% deposit bonus. So even if you're an unexperienced player, you would get into FPLC. You would have a back then, at least when I was working there, you had a council of players from each country which were giving feedback to admins who to remove, who to keep, and they were voting. So we would sit 15-20 of us there who accepted to be in the council, and we would vote by playing in the hub who we think needs to stay, who is not being okay, or who we got reports on and stuff like that. We would talk to the players on TeamSpeak. Hey bro, what's happening, what happened last game? He would tell us, then we'd ask the other 3 players what happened, and the other 3 players would confirm or deny, and you would have multiple people giving feedback on the league, and you would improve it. From FPLC, you qualify to FPL at the end of the month. You get a qualifier to go to FPL, and then you play in FPL, and FPL was very active. FPLC was very active as well. Now, that was back then. You had a chance through FPLC to get noticed, get to FPL, get noticed, go pro. Robs, Brocky, a lot of people did it. It was sick. Now in CS2, the problem is in tier 2, tier 3, if you want to play in teams, most teams you will have to match fix. Everybody knows about this. I talk to Kassad, I talk to pros. Everybody's aware that in the tier 2, tier 3 scene, it's made out of match fixing and betting. So you can make money there by playing lower tier tournaments and getting that money, and nobody's doing anything about that. ESIC doesn't do anything. Everybody knew about the trolls, everybody had videos, proof of Instagram messages, everything. Nothing happened. ESIC still didn't do anything, and to this day can't do anything. Valve as well, knowing there's match fixing and stuff happening in their game, they don't do anything because that's where the money is. So then you get to the point how to go pro. Then in FPLC, you kind of can't unless you know people. Go pro in CS2, what am I saying FPLC? To go pro in CS2, you basically can't because you're limited that you'd have to know people. And to know people, I mean, you saw how jail guy had to tweet about his friend Magnola, something. I don't know his name, something. That he deserves a team, blah, 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 blah. And then 2 weeks later, the guy got invited to a team. So you gotta know people, have people, be friends with people, play with people, Premier, Faceit, somewhere to get into a team. It's not as it was before that you would join a group where there's FPLC people who are semi-pros, and then you get matched in the lobby with them, and then you talk to them, meet them on TeamSpeak, you're playing, and then through those like friendships and games, you have a group and a community where people meet each other once they get to a certain level, and now they can make mixes, they can make teams for qualifiers, they can do stuff. You don't have that anymore, because what Faceit did is, and sadly Faceit is the only platform which has like a place to play CS2 for now. There's nothing else, and that's why they don't even do or care or create anything for people to play. Like, they don't take next steps in creating stuff. I even talked to their admins and they confirm that they feel like they don't have to do much anymore, because there's no need, there's nobody else doing anything. People have nowhere else to play. You go Premier, mostly cheaters, and nobody cares if you're good in Premier, so you have to play Faceit to get noticed, to meet people. But the problem is, once you go to play this ranking on Faceit, the seasons, it's cooked, because most of the seasons there's pro in the top. Like Martinez, he's playing with 2, sometimes 5 stack. I mean 3 with 2 friends, 3 stack, sometimes 5 stack, and they're stacking, and it's like 3 professional players: Martinez, David, and Adam. And now you're trying to grind. You go to 3.5 kill or something, and you're meeting 3 or 4, or like it's not 4, it's mostly 3 or 5 pro players in a stack, and you're playing solo queue. So when Faceit came to me, because I have their CEO on Faceit on Facebook, he told me about this idea, and I told him it's pretty stupid, because you are putting a huge disadvantage on solo duo queue players. And even if you go to League of Legends or Dota, you will see they have a solo queue system. So you're solo queuing until you get to the top. You can't play 5 stacks, 3 stacks, 4 stacks to abuse. Their idea was, though, that doesn't make sense. It's better to motivate people to play 5 stacks. And then I tell him, yeah, but not everybody has 4 people to play with. This is going to be easy for pros to abuse, because pros have each other on Steam, and they're like, yo, we have a sick 4 stack, you want to join these guys? Yes, let's go. And they farm solo, duo, trio queue players. So that's why it's pretty hard now to try to go pro in CS2, because you will have to play stacks versus people like Donk, Monesi, you solo, day 3 or 5. And that's why every season, you can't see the previous season, I think, sadly. Yeah, you can't see previous season. But even second and first season, Donk was rank 1, because he has the stacks here. And then you can see only the pros are in the top. So they put money in for people to qualify to FPL and win some money. And then the people who are already paid money to play professionally are stacking on Faceit to get the money from the players who need to go FPL. And once you qualify from here to FPL, there's nobody playing FPL. None of the pros play FPL. There's barely any games per week, because they made it only Friday and Saturday, and nobody's playing it. There's like 11 games. Let me show you FPL. There's like 11 games per week, if even that much. So this last one, 11 games in 2 days. That's the max. And there's only 40 people playing. Called Zera, I think, Monesi, and that's the only like tier 1 pros who played it. Yeah. So then you go to FPL thinking like, when I make it to FPL, I'll play with pros. Nah. And nobody watches it, nobody streams it, nobody plays it. So that limits you in a way to go pro and get noticed as a solo player from whatever region that you're grinding in, because you don't have the ability you had in CSGO before on Faceit to go normal, solo queue, duo queue, triple queue, all the way to master qualifier. In the master qualifier, you get to FPLC. Then FPLC, everybody solo queuing in the hub. From FPLC, you get into FPL through another qualifier if you show your skill, or if the council notices you and then say to the admins, yo, 10, 15 of the people in council notice this player is standing out, give him a chance for a trial in FPL, and then they push him for FPL. You don't have any of that now. You have only normal Faceit, where pros are stacking, abusing the system by playing versus solo, duo, triple queue players, mostly solo, so they 5 stack, and then on the other team is like 2-2-1. And then how are these end as well? One very important thing, when you see the 5 stacks versus solo queues, you will notice that the 5 stacks will always have higher elo. So it won't be that the 5 stacks, which makes logic, have lower elo, and then they're playing versus higher elo solo, duo, trio. It will be opposite, because what Faceit wants to do is they want to remove the chance of you wanting to solo queue. They want you to try your best to get duo, triple, 5 stacks with whoever to play versus these pros in the 5 stacks, to compete with them who play for a living for money, for this money here. And they already from the get-go have a better team. So the whole system, I don't want to say corrupt, but it's broken and doesn't make any sense. And they've been doing it for the 3rd season, promoting something that makes 0 sense because nobody plays it. Like, you have no chance as a solo queue player or an upcoming talent or a average player to reach this prize pool here, because this prize pool is basically reserved for pros and semi-pros. You have maybe a chance to get into top 3 FPL because they can't invite again Donk, Monesi, Semin, Makaze. They're all already in FPL. You maybe have a chance to get into FPL, but even if you do get into FPL, nobody plays it, and they don't give prizes in FPL unless there's a certain amount of games played. So now you join here, you see the leaderboard, and you're thinking, Siren just got $100. He didn't, because he doesn't have 8 games. Risky didn't get any money, he doesn't have 8 games. That's the rules that they put in, so there's not only like 3 or 4 games played. For example, season here, what was that season here? I didn't get the money, you know? Then season, it's a lower and lower amount this year. As you can see, this season, there's barely games. 22 people played FPL. The only pro that played 5 games, it's Flames. No other pro played. You see, Rigon played 1 game, yeah. And that's it. And I didn't get this as well, because nobody here had 8 games, so none of this money was given away. So it just going pro now, it's impossible in a way, like very, very, very small chance unless you know somebody who knows somebody and then you're connected. Maybe that's because Faceit wants players to be in agencies and then agencies to manage the players, because at the moment the pro players have agencies and then the agencies manage their contracts and sign them up for teams and suggest them for teams and blah blah blah. But it's very much a bad situation for you if you ever think of going pro. So if anybody thinks I'm wrong, like, leave a comment, tell me what you think. But I've been in this for a long time. I've created FPLC because I saw that as a great place for the whole community to be together, to meet each other, to mix, to from there create mixes if you don't have a team, and that way you meet other semi-pros and they can talk, they can, you know, they can get friendships. And I saw as well when I was in FPL, a lot of the players were spamming, why was FPLC removed? That was the best place for you. Even if there's no FPL games, you could play FPLC with others who are not in FPL, just to practice, just to improve, just to have quality games, because sometimes the games in Premier are not that good. They're like very, 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 very bad, in a way that you'll get a guy who was level 5 on CSGO now being level 10 in CS2, and you're getting him and he has no idea, he doesn't communicate, nothing. On FPLC you had a TeamSpeak, you had to be on the TeamSpeak, you had to communicate, you had other 3 players, you could tell them, oh, what the fuck, this guy's not talking, let's report him. You guys go report to the admin, say, show a video, show a stream, show what happened. You had who to talk to. It feels like very, very, very close circles for people who are already there making money to keep making money. And if you're coming in new, you want to solo queue like in League of Legends, like in Dota, and get to Challenger or whatever that name is. When you, I know in LoL that you're playing levels, la 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 la, in the end you have Challenger, and then all the like great players that are like high skilled players are there. You don't have that in CS anywhere. Like the season 1 in Premier is still season 1 in Premier. So just a small cry here, just to address some of the things, because a lot of people often ask, like, how do you go pro in CS2 now? I think very hard to go pro, almost impossible, especially if you don't know people and you're just a solo queue player who is good by solo queuing, and you don't have a place for somebody to tell you, do this, try this, to talk to some, to meet somebody. You don't have a place unless you get lucky to meet somebody in Premiere and he's a nice person and meets you and likes you, and then you start talking. Other than that, I don't know, somebody who just installs the game and wants to play and gets good, I don't know how he could go pro. Like Faceit did so good back when there were competition to them, like ESCA and Faceit were like competition, but now since everything's together, they have the whole monopoly, it's dead. Like they're making less and less and less effort for you to have something to play and to have a way out, you know, to have an opportunity. Let me know what you think. That's just my cry. That's my cry.